There's something to be said about all the shows that never were, whether that be from failed pilots that never got picked up, pilots that didn't test well, or for random behind-the-scenes circumstances. It seems like for every one show that does make it, a dozen do not. Today we are taking a look at the steampunk-esque action show that never was, Constant Payne. With all that we have for this would-have-been series, a 10-minute pilot. If you enjoy this video, you better subscribe. Let's jump into Constant Payne. In 2001, Micah Wright, who had already had a relationship with Nickelodeon thanks to working on The Angry Beavers, went on to start writing and producing a pilot for his own show for the network, that show being Constant Payne, a show that would have that early 2000s westernized anime feeling to it. Something you'd see in stuff like Totally Spies, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Martin Mystery, and a whole lot more from this specific era. That look would be juxtaposed to a very stylized steam or diesel punk style of backgrounds, vehicles, and of course, fashion. This is just some weird fusion of Tai from Digimon and Obito from Naruto. The premise of the show sets the universe of the Paynes, these sort of generational protectors that deal with various threats of evil, becoming, as they put it, knights, crusaders, monster hunters, police, scientists, archaeologists, and adventurers. Essentially, no matter what, there has always been a Payne that will protect others from evil. Here specifically, we follow Amanda Payne, who at this time is the next in line of the Payne family with her father, who doesn't want her to necessarily be a part of the whole saving the world business, and rather her focus on her current life as a teenager going to school. You know, focus on homework, not beating up bad guys. But like I said, she is the next generation of Payne family fighters, and to be fair, she can hold her own against the bad guys and still focus on school, at least as far as we know from the limited amount of time we spend with her for this pilot. And I'm sure if the show were to go on that it would delve into her struggles balancing both, as well as her relationship with her father in doing so. Like, I can totally see a storyline that has her father being captured and her having to work by herself or with her friend who we meet at the end of the pilot at school to go on a journey, fighting a bunch of bad guys, being crafty, and rescuing her father. But we will never get to know that as, again, this is all we have, a 10-minute pilot. So let's take a look into what we have as well as why it never came to be.
You'll never believe what happened to me on the way to school this morning.
Just let me drive this one time.
way.
I promise I'll never ask again.
This whole pilot revolves around one thing, a father who is just trying to drop his daughter off at school. But of course, the journey there is nothing like a boring commute as a sailor boy comes flying into the window of their blimp-mobile, or Zeppelin. Well, their trip is derailed as the sailor fell from another ship, blimp, Zeppelin, whatever you want to call it, that is currently being overrun by the evil Welton Payne, aka Doc's brother and Amanda's uncle, who, by the way, would totally be a Pyromain in Pokemon. Just look at that hair and beard combo. Mwah, perfection. The city itself is very stylized, like most in the steam/diesel punk genre, giving the architecture a very pleasant and unique skyline look with transportation zeppelins crisscrossing the skies. But the main conflict here is Doc jumping out of their blimp and landing on the other one to confront his brother, while Amanda has to fend off attackers jumping on their zeppelin. The whole fight with Doc and all of the henchmen is very tongue-in-cheek, harkening back to early action cartoons from the sound effects, but more specifically the way in which the bad guys info dump random callouts like, "Oh no, there's Doc Payne."
Watch out, it's Doc Payne!
It's kind of charming, very cheesy, but charming. All in all, the blimp gets destroyed with Doc jumping from it at the last second, only to be rescued by Amanda after she had literally just killed a man.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, no coming back from that one. This family dynamic having the bad guy, which we can assume that would have been the overall main big bad of the show, be Amanda's uncle and Doc's brother, could have been great in story development flashbacks, seeing the reasons why he was turned to a life of evil while still holding the last name of Payne, which has been a symbol for protection. What the whole falling out was, it could have made for some great TV. Amanda is very enthusiastic about being a Payne, being a part of the missions and wants to be involved, while Doc is very much much against those notions, not wanting his daughter to grow up so fast and focus on just being a kid rather than saving the world. Aspen Vincent voices Amanda, and you hear this wonderment in her voice, genuine fascination and excitement all wrapped together, which is very contrasted with her father. Doc is voiced by David Keith, who is the embodiment of monotone, but I mean that in the best way possible. There's just something to the way that he delivers some of his lines that come off so robotic or stoic that you can't really tell what emotion he's trying to express.
That was
Windows
not my
broken,
fault.
doors broken.
You're so mean. Come on, Dad, just
Nope,
let me drive
nope,
this one
no
time.
way.
I love you.
I love you too, honey. Here's your lunch.
Honestly, intentional or not, it added a lot of laughs for me, as every time Amanda would deliver dialogue in such a very natural way, with her emotions all baked into it, Doc would quickly get through a sentence in response with literally none. No emotions whatsoever. It's kind of great, and I feel that this is something they would have changed for the full show, but I think it's perfect and I would have kept it the same. It weirdly just works really well. It makes you feel like he is protecting Amanda from becoming a Payne crime fighter in fear of her turning out like him or anyone else in their family lineage. The stuff he had to do and see has hardened him up so much that emotions were tossed aside in favor of keeping others safe. He doesn't want that ambitious spark of light he sees in his daughter to dim like his did. And at the same time, he does seem like he's trying to be somewhat in tune with Amanda for the sake of her deceased mother. And maybe I'm reading too far into what little the show gave me to infer, but that's just my takeaway from the pilot. But what happened to it? Why did this pilot not become a show? Well, there's a few reasons why. First, let's look at what Micah has stated directly. He classifies this show as the first true American anime show, a title that I feel several shows have fought for the claim of having, but that's neither here nor there. He mentions that there were some executives that thought the show was too violent and would not be kid safe, but the funny thing is that it was testing really high for both boys and girls, a feat that hadn't been proven to be successfully done at that time. But Micah claims that it was possible by having this kick-butt father figure, mixing it with the relatable teenage school life of a daughter who can equally hold her own in a fight. And Nickelodeon was starting to engage in talks with Micah for a commitment to 26 episodes, aka a full one season of the show. Another reason that Micah cites is that at the time, he signed up with a union and believes that they made it very clear that this was the final and most notable reason for the show not to happen, as they were not happy with him trying to unionize their studio in any way. And adding on to this was also 2001, and the recent tragedy in New York City turned Nickelodeon away from action shows at the moment, plus making matters more understandable and complicated as the mother in the show was killed in a terror attack. There is also a scene where Amanda has to narrowly grind her Zeppelin between a pair of twin buildings, which clearly made the network panic about that. And of course, all of this was just circumstantial for the time. The pilot for the show had been in production and been made before the events of what took place happened, so any references or similarities were just unfortunately coincidental. And of course, when transitioning from a pilot to the full-fledged show, the whole scene could have been redone. The network would now not really have a want to pursue action shows in general, which was sad for a show like this because it had been doing so well in testing, and there was a plan already in talks to make it a full-fledged show. But based on experiences of working on the Angry Beavers, something I detailed in this video here from earlier this year, complications in dealing with the network was already a known thing, and there clearly was a lot of passion behind this project. Micah himself got to work with the Japanese animation studio Madhouse to make it, which was his favorite Japanese animation studio, so that must have been really cool for him to do, spending time in Tokyo. As well as it gets a little more personal as he was working with his friend and mentor Hilary J. Batter, who worked on a lot of DC-related properties and Star Trek properties as a writer, before she would pass away on November 7th, 2002. It is unfortunate that this show never came to be, as it was a pretty fun pilot and an easy enough concept to get behind. This was during the rise of action cartoons that we would see take over the 2000s, and I could have easily seen this fitting right in there with anything else in this genre on TV. It would even stand out on its own because of the steampunk aesthetic, which the show focusing on both Amanda as well as her father Doc, it would have been a pretty fun and interesting father-daughter dynamic, obviously giving more focus to Amanda more than anything, with our narrative clearly focusing on her. I would have liked to have dived deeper into the story that could have been there, between her and her father, her and her friends in life at school. What stories could have come out of this? Because for the base concept here, it looked like a fun idea. I also really liked the name of the show, being called Constant Payne. It just sounds really cool. And in the end, the biggest pain of all was never getting the show to come to fruition. But he never gave up hope. Since then, he has tried pitching the show to Warner Bros. Animation Animation, as well as other studios all around the world to make it into a feature film. So maybe one day Constant Payne may be a reality. If you've checked out this pilot, I want to know your thoughts on it. Would you have liked to seen this become a full-fledged show, 26 episodes in all? Tell me in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Later.